George King-Thompson made news around the world in July when he scaled the Shard, Europe's tallest building at over 1,000 feet, without any equipment in just 45 minutes.
But the climb was illegal, and in October, he was sentenced to 6 months in jail. On Friday, after serving the customary half of his sentence, he was released. He says prison was tough, but he won't let adversity extinguish his spirit.
Well, George joins us now with his parents, Clive and Hilary. Well, welcome to all of you.
Welcome.
George, you're out. You're free man again. How does that feel?
Feels quite overwhelming from going from incarcerated 22 hours in a cell to suddenly being in real life. So it's, quite overwhelming.
You came out on Friday,
yes,
didn't
Friday.
you? What was the first thing you did? What was the thing that you'd been thinking?
I hugged my mum.
Oh,
yeah.
I mean, look, when you came on before all this, I described you as an old-fashioned British buccaneer daredevil, and I still think that. Were you surprised by the severity of the sentence and having to go to Pentonville prison, one of the toughest in the country?
Well, I always knew the prospect of prison was on the table the moment I committed to preparing for the climb. I saw it as a success fee to achieving my dream. So for that case, it was worth every second in jail. However, when I climbed the building and I didn't get arrested, I thought that was it. It was the Shard who went out of the way to do a private prosecution worth 50 to 100 grand to put me in prison.
Because
that was quite a shock.
You were met by police, weren't you, at the top?
And they didn't arrest me, and I was gone within 30 minutes.
Did you get a caution?
A caution, that was it.
Yeah.
So it did become a shock when I,
But in the back of your mind, when you were climbing, you were thinking that I might end up in prison.
I mean, there was a lot of things on the table. I just saw it as a success fee to achieving my dream.
A success fee?
Yeah.
As a sort of tax on living your dream?
Yeah.
Let me bring in your mum and dad. I mean, especially you and mum. I mean, my mum would be... I mean, just the mere fact he's doing this. If I began scaling buildings, my mother would be having kittens. What do you feel about what your son does?
Well, it's terrifying, but I trust George. I know he plans so well for these climbs, and I don't know when he's going to climb. I only hear afterwards.
I wonder whether you were more frightened when you knew that he was going to Pentonville prison than you were when you knew he was climbing the Shard.
Absolutely shocking.
That was a big shock,
and not knowing what's going on inside and knowing it's so violent. And, of course, George would say, you know, I'm completely fine, but, you know, you can't sort of text and say, you know, how's your cell? Are you OK today? You
how often were you able to find out how he was doing, talk to him?
It took many weeks before George had phone credit to ring us. You know, and he didn't have a change of clothes for the first 5 weeks, things like that. I sent clothes in, and they took 3 weeks to process. I mean,
do you like what he does, the climb?
I'm incredibly proud of him, the way he's gone out on his own and doing something completely
different. The fine line
different.
between, you know, an amazing feat of buccaneering adventure and literally plummeting to your death. You're one massive gust of wind away from death. Does that not terrify you as his mother?
Of course it does. I don't want him to die. I want him to stay safe. But, as I said, he plans things, you know.
Clive, the other thing is, of course, that while we can celebrate George's courage, he is doing something which is illegal, which the Shard prosecuted, and which ended up with him in prison.
Yes.
Fact of the matter is, if something, God forbid, if something went wrong, it's not just George, potentially, who could be left suffering.
Yes.
What do you...
Well, there's an
I mean,
element
how
of
do you
risk in everything
defend
you
what
do.
he's doing?
I'd rather he didn't do it, but he's over 18, he's his own man.
But you wouldn't say that about other crimes, would you?
Well, I think there's a misconception here about George and what he's done. He's not a criminal. He has no criminal record.
No, it was a civil action.
It was a civil action. I think a lot of... I mean, the BBC, for example, still seem to think that he's got a criminal record. He's a criminal.
People will ask, why did he go to prison if it wasn't a crime?
Yeah, well, you know, we tried to get him out for Christmas, and I said to the lawyers, well, can we get him tagged or something to allow him out? And they said, well, no, we can't, because you can't tag a non-prisoner.
So if you're not a criminal, what were you?
He's in Pentonville.
Well,
why were you in Pentonville?
I was a civil prisoner, and it's just...
Many people may not even be aware you can be a civil prisoner.
It makes no sense, because it bears the question, let's say someone else were to climb the Shard who couldn't firm prison, and they were to go into prison, get stabbed, and have suffering from PTSD. It bears the question, does the offence committed correlate with the punishment given? The simple answer is no.
What was it like for you? I mean, you met a lot of people who had been actually involved in stabbing incidents.
Well,
You
I
shared
mean,
a cell with
yeah.
a number of them.
Well, I mean, it's a tough place. On my first day, I got a notice through my door saying that someone had been killed. You regularly see stabbings, attempted suicides. The jail's infested with rats, cockroaches, mice. But at the same time, it's a fascinating place. There's a use for every item. I saw prisoners make a toaster out of 4 kettles with the top parts chopped off and the heating elements wired up to make toast. And there's different principles and rules within the prison.
Did you, in a weird way, enjoy the experience?
I am grateful because of the mental and emotional growth I've gained from the experience.
Wow.
It was definitely out of my comfort zone, and it has enabled me to grow.
Are you rehabilitated, or is your first thought now, what can I climb next?
Well, I had a lot of time in jail to plan what I got to do next. I would never let an adversity extinguish.
You're going to keep climbing?
I would never let an adversity extinguish my spirit. And I spent a lot of my time in prison writing a book, which I should release at the end of 2020. And that's keeping the spine of the book, the adventure sharp.
But you are going to keep climbing?
I have projects which range from base jumping, skydiving to climbing, a lot of adventure-based projects. I wouldn't just call myself solely a climber.
Would you risk breaking, I know we're not saying it's a crime, but of course the Shard prosecuted you
Yes.
For civil disobedience, I suppose. Are you going to take that risk again?
I mean, it depends on the emotion I connect to the project.
OK, so that's a yes, you are going to take that risk.
Let's say there's some project...
So prison hasn't worked?
Oh, no, not at all. And this is the funny thing about Pentonville. They have the drug rehabilitation wing, E and F. Hey, let's put all the drug addicts together and hope that they rehabilitate when their cellmates smoking spice or, you know, taking heroin. And let's try...
It sounds like perhaps you should go into prison reform and campaigning.
Do you two feel comfortable about him carrying on now, climbing?
Well,
No.
I'm
No,
not
no.
comfortable about him doing
no.
it.
You can't stop him.
I can't
no,
stop
we
him.
can't stop him.
No.
That's the problem.
You know what? I'm afraid my view hasn't changed either. I still think you're what made this country great. You're a bit of a nutcase.
Piers.
I wouldn't do what you do. I couldn't do what you do. I'm scared of heights. But it's an extraordinary feat of endeavour. And we used to celebrate stuff like that. Now health and safety get involved and you get put in Pentonville with real criminals. And I think it's a shame.